Pastor Edgar Green of Eden Ministries would like to invite you to fellowship with them at their new location, located at 2900 Mary Meadows Lane, Keswick, Virginia. Worship services on Sundays at 11 a.m. and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Again, that new location is 2900 Mary Meadows Lane in Keswick, Virginia, adjacent to Stony Point School. Website www.eden-ministries.com.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
And we're back. You're tuned into In My Humble Opinion on 101.3 Jams, home of Cheryl Underwood Radio and the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Miss Max.
Sir Charles.
And of course, Ray's is with us. So our next guest, Paula Vest-Woodfolk. How are you, ma'am?
Doing great. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Paula is a community-based counselor specializing in educating and supporting parents. She teaches and facilitates parenting classes and workshops. So some people volunteer for your work. Some people are ordered for your work, right?
Right.
I'm not sure which side I want to be on.
I was trying to find a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Paul, I have something to ask you.
Okay.
Because you are a first lady of a church as well, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm like, you ever be looking at your congregation and be like, you need counseling, baby?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep you lifted up in
Come
prayer.
see me.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go up to her and say, sister, I think we need to pray about that.
So again, thank you for joining us. Now, your priority is educating parents so that they can co-parent in a healthy way, right?
Yes.
Here's my question. Like, how significant is this parent foundation? Because as you know, there's a lot of, let's just start with like school shootings, these young kids doing these school shootings. And when their background and their history starts to be unveiled, you hear about all the trouble that they had at home. So I just want to know, like, how significant is that in like creating a person? You know what I mean?
Yes. The home is very significant. I mean, that's where our kids get their start. They get their foundation. We lay the foundation. And so whatever we lay first, whatever is placed first, whatever else has to fight to get through. So if we lay a foundation of love, we lay a foundation of respect for one another, of significance, of identity, of purpose, then, folks that like themselves and have a good outlook on life don't go around hurting other people. Mm-hmm. We know that hurt people. And so as long as we continue to ignore that part of parenting, then we are going to continue to have this. And also, as long as we let other people raise our children for us rather than being in charge of them ourselves. My kids went to daycare, my kids went to public school, but I lead that walk. The school doesn't tell me when I can and can't come there. The school doesn't tell me what I can and can't feed them. So we are on team kid. So there is no us versus them. We're all on the same page when it comes to our kids. And so I think when we can get to that place and we're not so separated and compartmentalized about our children, they are little souls, and that we are responsible for molding that.
So are the cases, I don't know if you have this information, but are the cases of mental health on the rise? I just feel like that's always to blame when you have young people going out and committing these atrocities. Like, is the home life, is there an increase in poor home life? Like, what is happening to generate so much of this in the home?
Wow, that's one of those catch-22s because their mental illness is true. There's also something to be said at such a young age when we don't meet the needs of the children and we don't understand what their behaviors are telling us at such a young age. Many times we focus on the behavior and we want to stop the behavior, but we don't look at what need that behavior is trying to meet.
Right.
People are pretty basic. They want to increase their pleasure and decrease their pain. So when our kids do certain things, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what need are they trying to meet? And then how can I teach them to meet that need in an appropriate way where they don't hurt others or hurt themselves? So there is something to be said about mental illness, but it all depends on what mindset you come from. Some folks think it's just we are relying on that too much and not taking responsibility, and then other times we really may miss a child that does have a diagnosis.
Yeah, and you know, Miss Paula, I know one of the things, because my wife is an educator, and one of the things that she pointed out too is that how the community actually failed in the Parkland issue, because you talk about a young man who was from a broken home to the point of he was not raised by his biological family. But not saying that that's grounds for it, but then also his adopted mother died. So you're talking about a young man who is being left at every stage of his life. And so she pointed out the point of that, being that he was suspended or expelled before, like where was the community? Exactly. You know, like where were people checking on him and meeting him at his needs?
Yeah, he had a lot of loss. And when there's a lot of loss, there's just a lot of pain. And young children, or even especially teenagers, they don't always know how to deal with that.
That's a good thing that you point out, because I feel like kids these days aren't really taught how to deal with their emotions. So their emotions come out like, you know, what we saw a few weeks ago.
True. And it's interesting you said that, because I was having a conversation with someone about how even with the bullying, you know, we've all been bullied, and so often we spend a lot of time trying to get folks to stop bullying instead of also helping kids or even adults know how to deal with bullying, because no matter where you go, there may always be someone, even a boss, you know. So it doesn't just happen in childhood, but we need to give our kids a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, so that so they know how to stand against those, you know, darts that keep coming at them. We can't make everybody stop being mean. I mean, you just can't. So how do we toughen them up so that they can stand against that? Right.
And you know, something else I'd like to point out about a previous comment of yours, and Charles was talking about it as well, is as far as the kid that did the shooting a few weeks ago, where was the community? It can be hard when you're placed in a situation where it's not really too much over the top, where you feel like you're forced to report it, but it's enough to be concerned about, you know? Like, many people find themselves in a crux where if I report this, then I may be putting the kid in a worse position than they are in, or maybe tearing a family apart, or what have you. And so a lot of people bypass reporting it because, you know, they don't want to cause more harm.
True. And it's a tough place to be in, but, you know, at some point we have to reach out and we have to help the best way we can. Also, our communities are different than they were back in the day. We used to live around our aunties and our grandparents and, you know, our church family and everything, but now everyone is so separate, and, you know, we really don't even know our neighbors anymore, and so we don't have that same support. And I'm always telling the parents I work with that you have to build your support system, have a natural support system. It can't be with just service providers, the people that are paid to spend time with you. Because once that funding runs out, they're gone. And so
people realize, they recognize that, you know, you're just here because you're getting paid to be. You don't really care. Sometimes, not all the time.
We care.
But, you know,
but once, you know, once the funding goes, we have to move on to the next client.
So, and I'm sorry, I wasn't speaking about you in particular, but I'm saying, you know, that there are some teachers that you know, that they get paid to show up and leave.
Exactly.
You know, but there are some people who do put their heart in their work, for sure. So excuse me.
No, No, but no, it is so important for people to build a support system, because children need more than they need more adults in their lives, than more healthy adults than just their parents. We weren't made to parent alone. We need that support, and they need other healthy adults to speak life into them and to encourage them, and to have a safe place to go and to ask questions. And sometimes they want to ask questions about us, and so we need to have people in place and be intentional about that.
Yeah. And allow me to apologize to you and our listeners. We had a little microphone difficulty, but I think we got it straight now. Okay. So thanks for hanging in with us. But Max, one of the questions I wanted to ask is sort of shift gears a little bit, and I think we're going to take a break soon and come right back. But and Razor, should I wait till after the break or keep it rolling? All right, so we're gonna keep it rolling. Hey, you gotta pay the bills, right? You gotta pay the bills. But no, so switch gears a little bit. You being a pastor's wife, and also in the business of helping people in regards of your 9-to-5 job. So it's sort of like in your personal life and your professional life, you kind of have this calling to help people, to give people a good word, encouragement. So all the way around. So, but I'm curious about how do you separate the two? Because I find some people can't do that when they need to sometimes, meaning the advice that you give. Do you solely look at marriage from a biblical perspective, or is it more meeting people at their needs and for like whatever their background is?
Yeah, I don't separate. I really don't. Okay. I look at people as people. And I truly just show love, and I have my own personal views of how I think what the Bible says, but I'm going to help whoever the Lord places in front of me. I'm going to show His love. I'm going to be kind, and I'm going to be wise, and I'm going to give them the principles, because the principles of God work whether you're saved or not saved.
Yes.
Amen.
Reaping and sowing works whether you're saved or not saved. So I'm going to give you sound counsel, and what you do with that is up to you. So my hope is that I give it to you, then I show you how to use it, and then you use it. It works for you, and you share it with someone else. The truth is that all of the research that they do comes up. The best practices seem to be everything that we've been teaching in the church anyway. And so they're not doing as much research with families as they used to, because all of the everything keeps coming back to what's been true.
Yeah.
And so, you can say something over and over and over again. You can tell a lie over and over and over. It doesn't make it true. And people can believe it, but it doesn't make it true. So I stick to what I believe to be true, but I'm going to treat whomever the Lord places in front of me. I think people are more than what we see. So whatever behaviors they have, whatever lifestyle they have, whatever mindset they have, it's not my place to, put my thumb on them and to press them down. It's my place to just speak life and show them what I think is a good way and possibly a better way. But I give you some options.
All right, you're tuned into In My Humble Opinion. We are speaking with Paula Vest-Woodfolk, and we're going to be right back after this quick break.
Thought about getting out of the rat race? How about establishing a legacy for you and your family? We live in a land of opportunity, and it's knocking at your door right now. Stephen Davis Enterprises recruits motivated individuals looking to make a change for themselves and others. Entrepreneurialism is alive and well. Is it alive in you? If so, contact them at 915-422-6842 or follow them on Twitter at Legacy in Action.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
That's right, it's us. We're back. In My Humble Opinion, 101.3 Jams, and we are speaking with Paula Vest-Woodfolk of Helping Families Hope and Heal. So before we proceed, I think, fellas, you had a couple questions for me.
Yeah, just to follow up, Miss Paula. The question arose about those who come to your office. 'Cause I'm sure you've seen quite a few. I'm curious how you respond to those when there's a tension, when there's a battle with your spiritual perspective, and as you eloquently said, on how you feel that matches and aligns with the right advice to give. But someone comes in, say they're in an open relationship, or they say, we don't want to get married, we don't think we should be married, but we want to co-parent. How do you resolve that kind of tension when they're totally untraditional as far as your belief set, but able to still give them the right advice?
Well, I focus on how can I help them where they are, move forward, and be the best parents they can be. I really don't focus on whether they choose to get married or not. Okay. I will, we may talk about why marriage is a good idea, why it may not be a good idea for them, but the child is here. So I focus on how can you be the best parent for that child. Okay. That's what I focus on. I've had same-sex couples that come to our classes and so forth, and I am still going to say what I believe to be true, and I have not had anyone that's been offended, that has said, hey, they've thanked. I just keep it true, and I keep it in
keep
love.
It 100.
Yeah, and I just say it in love, and I come from a place of let's look and see what is best for your child, and then you do what you think is best for your child. I'm not here to pat you, to stroke you. I'm here to help you do what's best for your child. But then the ultimate decision is totally up to you, and I'm gonna love you either way. So
there you go. Thank you.
How you doing, Miss Paula?
Hey, good.
Got a question for you. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, little real world situations here.
Okay.
So God ain't through with me yet, so go ahead and pray for me when we go here.
Let me get my sensor button.
Yeah, get the sensor button ready. Now, what do you do for the guy who the court system has got involved? He only gets his child once every other weekend, few hours at a time. How can you really co-parent as a man? Because what I've found is that as soon as the young lady goes to court, the guy's automatically a deadbeat dad, just because he's in the system. And if he is fighting for visitation, it just automatically goes to the female. So when we're talking about co-parenting, how can you be especially if you got a young black male as a son, how can you be a respectable man and you only see him 8 hours a month, court ordered?
Got you. So if it's court ordered visitation only 8 hours a month, but there is no protective order saying you can't see your child, then you can still go and have lunch with them at school and things like that. But what I try to encourage men to do, or encourage anyone, but especially dads, is to stay focused, be consistent, and then ask for more. Go to the courts and ask for more, because what is actually happening is that there are judges and jurisdictions that are noticing and are paying attention that dads are needed. Yeah. And so they are starting to shift the way they think. I have cases now where dad is the primary parent. He has primary custody. So, be there as much as you can and be consistent. Phone calls, FaceTime, those things. The only way co-parenting works well is when both parents respect the relationship the child has with the other parent. Yeah. When they respect that, it doesn't matter whether you like your ex or not. I mean, things happen. But that just because you guys aren't together anymore, you're still that child's family. And so kids need both of their parents. Now, I'm not talking about those cases where there's some type of abuse and there's those things. I'm not talking about those. And the majority of the cases don't concern that. They don't have that going on. It's really just a lot of bitterness on both sides. And sometimes when grown-ups are hurt, they use the children to hurt the other parent, not recognizing how much they're hurting the child. Really,
you just won bingo.
You won. Yeah. And And I have to ask you as well about like some of the so-called statistics. I'm curious on how they reflect in your work, if you're seeing them to be true. One being, it said that a woman can't raise a man. She can't teach a boy how to be a man. The other being that, they say statistics of kids who come from dual parent homes tend to do better in society. Like that's things that we hear. So I'm curious, do those statistics seem to hold true in your experience?
They really do. They really do seem to hold true, and so I speak truth to that. And do I think single parents do a great job? Many of them, yes.
Of course.
But do I think that a child does better when they have the love of both parents, or at least a father figure or a mother figure? Yes. The truth is, this is not politically correct, but it is true that I don't know what it's like to be a man. I love my son, but there's some things that I don't understand about being a boy, and the feelings and the hormones and the way they think. And there's sometimes that my husband has to tell me, step back, I got this one. I'm thinking he's being a little too harsh there. That's my boy. And he's like, I got this. Right. So, and there are things that as a man, he doesn't know. For our daughter, and so I know that's not politically correct, but it is true.
It's true.
It's just true.
Yeah.
And so we can you cross the room with just one leg? Yes, you can get across the room with just one leg.
I like that.
But is it harder? It's better to have two. And so we can decide whether we want our children to continue to limp along, and then we keep having these issues, or we want to be intentional about providing them what they need and not what makes us feel better.
Miss Paula, you the new Maya Angelou, ain't you? You got me over here shaking my leg looking at preach.
And for clarification too, are you saying that for as long as they're effective co-parents though, that working just as well as if there's actually a dual parent household? Is there a difference there?
There is a difference.
Okay.
But I tell you, kids at this state, an age of our society, if we can just have both parents involved consistently, that is just so much help. I mean, that is just so much better. Being in the same home, being in the same healthy home. And I'm not just talking about,
right. That's
violence.
important.
Just because you're in the same house and there's domestic violence and all those things going on, that's not the same thing. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Because even with domestic violence, if even a child that has not been physically harmed, but they've watched domestic violence in their home. If you put a young child's brain beside that of a soldier that has come back from combat, it's the same, because they're constantly they're just constantly just not knowing when something is going to pop off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so they're always on guard. So we have to it's not just about having two parents in the home. You do want a healthy home, and that doesn't mean that of course everybody gets along all the time.
Right.
But it means you deal with the conflicts, you work them out.
And it's hard to explain to a child when they have one parent that's in their life, out their life, in their life, out their life. It's hard to help them to understand that. I don't think there's any amount of words to make them understand why, Daddy is here today, gone tomorrow. Like, he still loves you, or you can't find words for that. So then, who knows what's going on inside.
Yeah, that's true, and there are different thoughts on that. Some people are like, well, if the parent can't be consistent, then they shouldn't be there. But then there's also that thought of we teaching our children that people are people.
Yeah.
And sometimes the love that someone gives us is all they have. And it may not be enough for us, but that's all they have right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the key part is the consistency. You know what I mean? Like if it's not working out, you know, between me and your mom, that's one thing. But if I tell you I'm going to be there, I need to be there.
Right.
You know, so you know, dads need to, you know, show up when they're supposed to show up, right?
Yeah, moms, and you know what? I have to, you know, stick up for the dads. I mean, this thing goes both ways. You know, there's some moms out there that's not quite, you know,
Yeah.
pulling their weight either.
You want me to say it for you?
They're not quite pulling their
I'll
weight either.
say it in a
And this
minute.
was
Miss
what
Paul.
you don't want him to say.
No, I probably
Now, I do have a serious question to ask
Okay.
you real quick. In your profession, have you found that when it comes to the parenting aspect, that we judge differently if it's a Caucasian family or if it's a black family?
Oh, yeah.
No, don't get soft voice on me now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, most definitely. I mean, even in how we correct our children, how we discipline them, how we talk to them, how we play with them, sometimes it is misjudged.
Right.
Working with, you know, all types of families, when I see a mother, to me, it's not speaking harshly to her son. I said, stop it, and I mean it now. You know that, but a white mother or a white social worker may see her saying the same thing, and they think that's being overly harsh. But we know that we don't have the luxury of you know, like telling our kids 3 and 4 times to do something, because they're like, I mean, we need them to.
Yeah.
We just don't have that luxury that they can just be poo-putting around and not listen to us when we need them to listen to us, because their life depends on it. So, you know, we need them to get it right away.
Speaking about discipline, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's this video going around where a guy is making his child run to school in the rain.
That's local, ain't it?
Because he
was
was
a bully.
bullying. And so there's a bunch of
I heard
people
about
saying that's too much, that's over the top. And then others, of course, are saying, you know, good for you, Dad, for teaching him a lesson. And the dad was driving along beside him on the way to school while he ran to school. And I personally agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Because at some point, you know, if you don't stop that type of behavior, then and he becomes an adult and starts doing all these outrageous things, you know, then you start talking about the family. Well, what did he miss, you know, growing up, or daddy didn't love him, or mama didn't pay enough attention, or, you know, then you want some corrective measures when that could have been taken care of as a child.
Yeah, and what's that balance though, Miss Paula, as far as what she's saying? Because I'm sure you've dealt with parents who come from 2 different backgrounds. One had strict parents, and one could get away with whatever they wanted to. So how do you balance that?
Those parenting styles, I tell you, and then sometimes we may overcompensate because we think one is too harsh or too, you know, soft. So then we are either too hard or too soft. Yeah, I saw that video, and I was feeling all over the place, because from the old school in me, I'm like, yeah,
Right.
the kid is safe, and he, you know, he got kicked off the bus. This is what happens.
Know what the
you
new
know?
school say.
Yeah. And then the other side of me says, well, what does that, you know what, I think the new school side of me, it was still okay, because I think it all depends on what lesson he's trying to teach his child. And I think so often we judge other parents not knowing what lesson they are trying to teach their child, not knowing the issues that their child may have. Anybody that has more than one kid, you know that what works with one doesn't always work with the other. So
Sure.
I didn't have an issue with. I really didn't. I really didn't.
Miss Paula, you know what burned me up? I'm gonna tell you. Tell them why you mad, Ray. I'm gonna tell you why you mad as well. Me and my family, we have an extremely large family, and me and my wife do everything that we can to teach our children manners, respect, especially my boys. I try to open up doors, be strong black men. You know, people need to feel you when you come in the room, even if they don't see you. What burned me up is turn the radio if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say. I can't stand when like an older white couple will walk up to me and my wife and say, "You have such well-mannered kids." My blood boiled to the point that I try to pass gas before they walk away. You know what I'm saying? It burns me up. I mean, because I'm like, they're respectable as compared to what? Some puppies? Some animals? What are they? Because like, so for anybody that may think that you are paying African American families due justice by telling them they got well-mannered kids, Go find something to drink. You know what I'm saying? And sit down somewhere, because we do not want to hear that. I'm sorry, Miss Paul. I just had to get that off my chest.
But you are so on point, because I'm going to tell you, when my son was in first grade, he had a particular first grade teacher, and I come in for the parent teacher conference, and the first thing she says to me is, I just want you to know that he is not a behavioral problem at all. And I'm like, well, what made you think he would be? Right. What about him made you think he would be a behavioral problem? And then because of some other issues, she didn't stay his first grade teacher for long. We had to shift him to a different class. But I think that lets us know that we have to make sure that we're intentional about how we bring up our children and how they may be seen by others, and we don't have to apologize for that. It's just the truth.
That's right.
And so we need to prepare them for that.
All right. Family, we've been speaking with Paula Vest-Woodfolk of Helping, I don't have the title in front of me.
Helping Families Hope and Heal.
There you go. There you go. So listen, before we go, though, tell us how to contact you if anyone needs your services.
Well, you can Google Helping Families Hope and Heal. You can hfhopeheal.com. My number is 434-987-0402. And if you need the co-parenting class that's court ordered, you can always look on the Virginia Supreme Court website, look up our area, and I pop up.
Okay.
Yeah. And Miss Paula, you don't have to rush off. You can stick with us at the bottom of the hour if you want to.
Yeah, we're not done with you, Miss Paula. We just taking a break and pay some bills.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, family, we'll be right back.
I like that song right there. Sure. Got a question for you, Miss Paula. You made a very valid point about. I'm about to violate the man rule here real quick. You made a valid point about it only works between co-parenting if both parents respect the other parent. What does a man do when he can't get past the fact that woman may have hurt him? Because, as men, we're not allowed to say that our feelings got hurt. So what does the man do? We always tell the woman, you got to get over it, you got to get past it. But what about the gentleman who can't get past it?
Gotcha. And I will answer that, but I'm going to tell you what I actually said is that co-parenting works when both parents respect the relationship the child has with the other parent.
Now, what if that person didn't respect you, that you was in a relationship? So how can you respect the relationship that they have with the child?
Because that's two separate relationships. The relationship I have with my husband or that my parents have with each other has nothing to do with the relationship I have with my father and I have with my mother. Like I tell my kids, y'all need to stay out of grown folks' business.
Amen.
This is between me and your daddy.
Amen.
It's between me and my husband. This ain't even your daddy right this moment. This is just my husband. This is just us. Okay? This is just us. And then, we'll deal with all those things later. But to answer your question, though, that is a hard one, and we do talk about that during the co-parenting class, because we talk about when there's change, there's loss, and loss with grief, and giving ourselves permission to mourn that loss, because we've lost a companion, we've lost these ideas of our future together, and it's easier to show anger, to say, hey, forget he was trifling. My mama says she wasn't no good, no way. It's easier to go there, but to really heal, which is where my heart is to help people heal through the hurt, and then you can have hope again. Because when you don't heal, you really can't see a better future. You can fake it for a while, but it catches up with you.
Yeah.
So I like to tell folks to give themselves permission to hurt. To just feel that stuff, go through it, and then realize this is not where I thought I'd be. I mean, let's be honest. Most folks that have kids together, we're not talking about one night stands and stuff like that, but they really plan to have children together, and especially when they get married, they don't plan to be separated and going through court about custody and all this stuff. That stuff hurts. And to act like it doesn't is the society we live in, where we don't feel like we can be true. The truth is, we do hurt. But we do heal, or we can heal.
I want to ask you a question about, and I would probably call this the button for for the people that you're mentoring or counseling. How do you advise people when they are introducing a significant other or a spouse into the equation?
You mean to the children?
Yeah.
Wow, I would suggest that people don't introduce new love interests until you think it's something that's going to be serious, because children sometimes get attached, and then if that breaks off, that's another loss.
Okay.
Or sometimes you may be ready to move on because you've been dealing with this for a while, but your kids are not ready to move on. And so they struggle with the fact of, it's kind of hard to see your mom or your dad with somebody else. So we need to be mindful and give them an opportunity to get ready for that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can never love again until your kids are okay with it. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we do need to wait and, find out and at least believe that this is going to be a longer term relationship than parading men and women back and forth between our kids. Kids that have a whole bunch of uncles, a whole bunch of aunts.
Right.
That,
And then how do you advise the parents, though? Because the first thing that either party might argue is, I'm not going to have my child calling somebody else daddy or someone else mama.
Well,
I think that is something to discuss. I mean, they don't. Yeah, I mean that is one of those conversations out of respect. Like, I don't call anybody else mom. I don't care how good they are to me. My mom has been my mom. She has earned that. I mean, she had me at 17 and gave up everything. So I can understand a mom or a dad saying, I'm here. I'm active. Because I tell folks, single is your marital status. That's not your parental status. That's your marital status. Because there are plenty of people that are single, but both parents are involved.
Yeah.
So just because you're a single parent does not mean that the other parent is not involved. And so if the parent is involved and they don't want someone else, they don't want their child calling someone else, mommy or dad, I think you should be able to respect that. There are other names you can give somebody.
Yeah. Now the normal sort of the standard, I guess, advice that you would give, though, in those situations, the stepdad, so to speak, do you feel that they should put in just as much as they do for the stepchild as for their kid, even when the biological father is present, or do you feel like that there should be some sort of difference there?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So like for that biological dad who may say, look, I'm still involved and I'm the father, do you give the advice of that the stepdad should respect that to what point? If him saying, well, I'm with the mother now, so how do you draw that line?
Each family has to figure out what works for them. Some of them, where the stepdad, because he happens to be there every day and he's filling out that dad role. I mean, he's making sure the kids are fed and he's playing with them. He's doing all this dad role, not just a stepdad role. He's doing the dad role
exactly.
as well. That's fine if that's fine. And as another dad, I would think, well, I'm glad somebody else cares about my kid. And my kid's not missing out. But as long as they're not overstepping their bounds and they're not pushing the biological dad out when he wants to be there.
When he wants to be.
When he wants to be there and he's trying to be there, that's just not cool. But children benefit from as many adults that love them as they can have. They benefit from those relationships.
I know that, especially on the man side, like Charles said, it's the ego thing, like this man taking my place. But for a woman, it can be paralyzing for her because she feels like, who does she think she is?
Yes.
This is my child. So, I mean, you have your work cut out for you. I commend you because they wouldn't want the information that I give them.
Hey, are you looking for a partner? Because I think Razor got some available.
You ain't lying. Now, I mean, you're going to be sued in 36 days, but I got you. I got your back.
So, listen, before we let you go, we had an Ask Max question that Charles brought to us a few weeks ago about whether or not you're a single parent if... How did it go, Charles? If you were
That's a good
single
question.
parent, if you had a child with someone and then you were no longer with that person, but
yeah, I got you.
but
Yeah, are
had
you
another
still-
significant other, then are you still a single parent or?
Yeah. Is a single parent defined by marriage or is it defined by involvement? It's pretty
Single-
much what it was.
Well, single is defined by your marital status. That's what single parenting is.
There you go.
So if you were never married,
Then you're single. Then you've never been married parent.
you need to tell child support.
Well, now child support, I tell you, when you go through the courts, I tell y'all this, the courts were not set up for families. They were not. It is a system. And the courts believe that kids have a right to be supported by both parents. But it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, but why do some people got $100 kids and I got $700 kids? I'm hurting over here, Miss Paula. Pray for me.
I tell you.
So listen, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Had a lot of fun. Hope to have you back, family. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion. We've been speaking with Paula Vest-Woodfolk, and just thank you so much for all of your advice. And again, helping families hope and heal is her company. And if you guys need their services, she sounds like she knows what she's doing. So,
Yes, indeed.
all right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.